Hello, world, and welcome to Always Have Choices podcast. Today, we have a wonderful guest. Her name is Hunter Clark Fields. And in order for us to know a little bit about her, I'd like to read her bio to you. So here we go. Hunter is a mindfulness expert, author, and speaker known for her work in mindful parenting. She is the creator of Mindful Parenting course and the host of the Mindful Parenting podcast, which has garnered over 3 million downloads. With more than 25 years of experience in meditation practices, Hunter has taught mindfulness to thousands around the world. Her mission is to help parents reduce their reactivity and foster more peaceful, cooperative family dynamics. Hunter is the author of the best-selling books Raising Good Humans and Raising Good Humans Every Day. Her writing has been featured in various prominent publications, including CNBC, NBC, The Huffington Post, Tiny Buddha, and Mothering. She is also a global speaker and mindfulness meditation teacher, providing resources and training through her platform, Mindful Mama Mentor, New Harbinger Publications, Inc., Apple, and Tilt Parenting. How did I do?
That
And
was
good
good.
afternoon.
Yeah. Hi. Hi, Jay.
Hi, how are you? I'm so excited to have you on this show. You know, we try to cover a lot of different subject matters, and this is a very unique subject matter. So I'm really glad we're tackling it today. And thank
Great.
you for joining us. All right, if you don't mind, I'm going to pop right into the questions, if that's okay with you.
Let's do it.
All right. So, question one: what inspired you to write Raising Good Humans? Was there a particular moment or experience that sparked that idea?
My own miserable failing as a parent inspired me to write Raising Good Humans. I was when my daughter was like 18 months, 2 years old, my first daughter. She's a highly sensitive kid. I'm a highly sensitive person, and this temper came out of me, and I was yelling, I was scaring her. And it was exactly the opposite of what I wanted to do, because my father had a temper growing up. Like, so it was, I could see that I had, I had so much to learn, and there was this way I wanted to parent, yet I couldn't make myself do that, in the moment. So I basically saw, like, I was following these parenting coaches and teachers that had really good advice, really great ways to respond to your kid that I simply couldn't follow. I couldn't follow. I mean, I would be like, okay, today I'm going to do this, X, Y, Z. And then I would start to get triggered and I would start to get reactive. And then it all went out the window. Like, I couldn't remember any of the good things I wanted to say. And so it was so frustrating. And so I really ended up having to kind of go back to diving into mindfulness, which I had been reading about and studying since I was 17, to just for my own, help me with my own sort of ups and downs and challenges and sensitivity. And I started to go down a rabbit hole of learning, but just really realizing that, like, in the parenting world, like, there was this expectation that you could just respond this way, this is how you respond, just respond this way. And there was no kind of like understanding of, like, well, parents are humans with their own stuff, and we are wired for reactivity, and this nervous system, this biology. And so I I saw that the tools of mindfulness really could help enormously to build awareness and help reduce reactivity in the moment, but also build awareness of, us overall.
Excellent, excellent. All righty. So I'm glad the information was out there, and then you took it and used it for your particular way of teaching others how to do it today. So, question two: can you explain what mindfulness means in the context of parenting, and why is it so important?
Well, mindfulness is Very simple. It's just the choice to put your attention into something in the present moment with an attitude of kindness and curiosity. Super simple, but it's really different from the way we are normally living life. Like we are, we are kind of wired to be, we're culturally we're going and doing rapidly. We have achievement orientation. We are also wired to be kind of like looking for threats as well. Being in the present moment is not necessarily what would how humans are wired. And so the mindfulness is so important for parents because it's kind of like it helps us to build that non-reactivity muscle, is the way I see it. 2,600 years ago, they figured out this weird hack for humans that if you sit still, you practice being peaceful, then we can start to sort of build that muscle of peacefulness. And so for parents, we're at our worst. Like when things are great, it's great. Like we can love on our kids and everything's wonderful. That's wonderful. That's not when we have the problems. Problems are when it's tough and we start to get reactive. And so when that happens, the mindfulness can be a tool to help us to calm that reactivity because, it's kind of wonderful how it works. There's all these studies, of course, that show that Johns Hopkins did a meta study of 47 different studies that showed that mindfulness reduces anxiety, reduces depression, increases sense of well-being, and things like that. But they've also have all these MRI scans of the brains of meditators and show that after, in 8 weeks of a meditation practice, that the parts of the brain responsible for that reactivity are amygdala, the limbic system in the brainstem, the kind of oh crap centers of the brain, if you will. They actually shrink. They actually become less dense and gray matter. And then the parts of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for, verbal ability, problem solving, impulse control. Like these are all the things we need to be able to remember those good things to say.
Yeah.
and to solve those problems. A mindfulness practice actually makes that part of the brain grow denser in gray matter. And it's so it can help us to just kind of start to build that muscle of reactivity. And no one really knows kind of how this works, but I kind of think that, as you sit, maybe you sit in meditation, maybe do a walking mindfulness practice, or you make a practice of slowing down and putting your attention in the present moment. As you do this, it's not like, I don't know, like, rainbow sparkles of joy like shoot out of your ears. Like actually all this stuff comes up for you. You start to think about all the things you have to do. Anxieties come up, worries, fears, all kinds of things arise when you're just trying to put your attention in the present moment. And then period of time, you're deliberately practicing to say, okay, that's a thought right now. I'm not going to react to it. I'm going to stay present. I'm going to, again, deepen my breath, again, relax into this moment. And so then when we get to those really challenging moments with our kids, we've kind of built that muscle a little bit, and B, we can then sort of step back a little. We're more likely to be able to step back and to then use our whole brain, which is what we want, right? We don't want to yell at our kids because we know it causes disconnection. It causes kids to be scared of us. It makes it so they can't learn because their fight, flight, or freeze stress response is activated. Everyone's going to yell sometimes, like we're not aiming for perfection, but like we can reduce that and be more skillful more of the time. That's great. Cause then also that's what your kid is going to model. So I kind of think of it as this like parental brain hack that we could all tap into. It's free. There's no side effects. It's great.
Yeah, I have found in my own meditation practice that practice is what gets me there. I mean, it's been years. I've been meditating for over 46 years, and it takes so much time to get there, even though you can get the benefit right away. Like I was told in the beginning, sometimes, you're fidgety, you want to move around a lot, But if you keep your body there, the mind will eventually follow. But I would imagine for parents in the moment, when they, which they all have, where there's a lot going on and, they're doing a lot, not to act out and just yell or scream, but to grasp what you're saying and then to be able to put that out. I would imagine that takes a lot of practice to be able to work with your children on that level. So very exciting stuff.
And it depends, there's all these different sort of levels of that. Sometimes you catch yourself, you start to become aware, oh, I'm getting frustrated. I need to do some things to calm my fight, flight, or freeze. And then other times, it's like 0 to 100 in 0.5 seconds.
Right.
And then sometimes, but then that practice can help us in some ways. Like, I remember when my younger daughter was 9 and we had all had a movie night. And then of course, at night, kids get a little crazy and rampy at night, and you're just so exhausted. It's the end of the day. You just want to go to bed. And she started like trying to bug me. And I was like, oh, I'm going to read this book. I'll ignore her. And she'll go away and go upstairs and get ready for bed. And then she laughed at me. So and all of a sudden it was like this new trigger that I didn't know. And all of a sudden I felt like, like this, just like volcano had erupted. And I could feel I was so reactive and I was so angry. All of a sudden I could just feel it all in my body. And yeah, I was so proud of myself because I was at like 100%. And I, instead of maybe because of all the practice of the skillful communication of practicing non-reactivity, I was able to, I yelled, but instead of like yelling something really mean or unskillful or whatever, I was able to yell, I'm really angry right now. And I like,
not so much, but explaining.
Yeah, just like naming my feelings. And then I slammed the door and I threw my book down in the carport and I walked back and forth up the street for 10 minutes. But I was like, this is a good moment. This is progress because that awareness has sunk in that these are my feelings, and this is just about me. And so there's different degrees of awareness in the way those years of practice can hit you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Which brings us to our next question. We just talked about this. How can parents break the cycle of reactive parenting? What are some of the practical steps they can take? So just what you said about not reacting immediately, but, I'll let you take it.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. So a mindfulness practice is really great as a long-term tool, as you know, right? Like it's not like it's better as a long-term. You're going to the gym, kind of building.
It's not a quick
muscle.
fix, right?
Yeah. But we can. I think it's just really important for parents to realize that there are tools we can use in the moment. And so when we're reactive with our kids like freaking out or yelling or something like that, and we lose it and we yell, it's not like we made a choice to lose it and yell, right? Like I never woke up in the morning and said, I'm going to scream at Maggie because at 10 a.m. No one does. No parent does that. Right? So no one's consciously choosing to yell. And it's important to understand that. And then also understand that what the yelling is or the losing it is for parents, it's our fight, flight, or freeze stress response triggered, right? Our stress response is seeing our kid as a threat, right? So then if we can start to stop blaming ourselves, understand that this is just biology. This is just the way our nervous systems are wired. This is the way we all are. It's not a personal failing on your part. You're not a terrible person. This is just the way humans work. Then we can start to say, okay, well, we can be a little more compassionate with ourselves. And then we can also start to understand that taking care of ourself and taking care of our nervous system is the number one priority. If our kid's freaking out and losing it, and we want to be able to respond effectively to that child, whether it's with words or whether it's with our presence or whatever it is, we have to take care of ourselves. We have to then, in that moment, realize, oh, hello, nervous system. We're starting to feel activated here, right? We're starting to feel triggered by this moment. Maybe my kid's in a public place and it's embarrassing and I'm starting to feel triggered. I'm starting to feel my jaw tight, right? I'm starting to feel like I just need to just stop everything right now. I want to control this situation. Oh, hello, nervous system. So then we can start to implement some tools, mind body tools, to kind of calm that nervous system and know that it's not us, it's not the kid. Okay, we need to just take care of the nervous system. So things like the breath is cliche because it works. Longer exhales than inhales. It's kind of like biohacking because each inhale is like a little mini fight, flight, or freeze stress response. Each exhale is a little mini rest and relax response. So do some longer exhales. You can shake out your limbs like like after a zebra's been chased by a lion and they just like shake it all out, or like your dog shakes it all out. You can shake out your limbs because this is stress is like a tension in the muscles, right? You can shake the tension out. It's very practical. You can tell your nervous system, like there's a mantra I like to teach people, which is, this is not an emergency. Right. This is not an emergency, right? Or I'm helping my child. This is not an emergency, right? So you're directly telling your nervous system, we can slow down, even though we can, and as a combination of those tools, it's really a good idea for parents to practice those things, like practice these longer exhales, practice sitting still and calming the body, right? Because what you practice grows stronger. You can't just depend on yourself to, you don't just choose it in the moment. You don't just, you think you can when everything's cool. You think, I'll just do this. I'll just pause, right? No, and even pausing, right? You even have to practice that. Like you can practice that in a calm moment. You can say, for the next week or so before you answer your child, you can take a breath in and a breath out and just practice.
Having the mindfulness that you speak about, take a breath in. Am I right here, right now? What I hear you. Yeah. Excellent. You mentioned raising kind and confident kids. What are some of the key strategies for fostering these qualities in our children? How do you do that?
Well, I mean, what I talk about in raising good humans, I think that is the most important to understand, is that we are always modeling in every moment, right? Our kids are learning how to be from us. So we have to live what we want our kids to learn. So a lot of the ways we promote kindness and confidence in kids is that we work on we take care of ourselves, and we also work on our communication, right? How are we communicating? And one of the things that can be challenging is that in kind of the mainstream of parenting culture, there's a lot of the way we talk to kids can be actually kind of a little bit rude, right? We're giving them orders and commands all day long. Put on your shoes, put on your jacket, come over here, go over there, get in the car seat, get out of the car seat, right? All these things. We're doing it all day long, every day. And, sometimes we're also like, we're dismissing their feelings. Yeah. A kid comes to you with a boo-boo. Oh, you're okay. It's fine. Right. Or, we want to jump in and solve their problems for them. So some of the things that in the second half of Raising Good Humans and in the mindful parenting course, we talk about this idea of like, how are we communicating? What are we modeling for our kids? Yeah. So are we yelling at them and barking commands? It's kind of rude. If you thought I wouldn't yell at you, Jay, or like bark some commands at you, you wouldn't do it to your respected auntie, right? So, but then we do it to our kids, and then we expect them to speak respectfully back to us, So we're a little bit, and as I say this, some parent may be listening and saying, "Oh, yikes. Yeah, that might be what I'm doing." And I'm not saying it to be blameful, because this is just the way this is the cultural norms. And so if that's what you're doing, that's, that is just what the water we are swimming in. So it's not like, it's not your fault necessarily if that's what you're doing, but it's really good to be aware of it and then start to say,
Yeah.
oh, that's how I'm talking to my child. That's what I sound like. If I want to raise respectful, kind kids, I have to actually model that kind of speech and action to them.
I love that. I love that you said we have to model, because I know growing up, as a kid, they put you in front of the TV, and a lot of the heroes that I modeled, I'd model after that. But especially your parents, like sometimes you can talk to a child and sort of know what kind of parent they have, if they're calm, cool, collected, and as opposed to some other parents that don't practice a lot of these wonderful ways to raise children. So truth, I think that modeling thing is huge, huge. In your book, you discuss the importance of self-compassion for parents. Why is this so crucial, and how can parents practice self-compassion?
Well, it's so crucial because we're going to mess up. I mean, all of these things that we're talking about, if you're aiming to parent skillfully and mindfully, you're going to mess up. You're going to yell at your kids. You're going to say something dumb and rude and stupid because you're human. That's what humans do. We make mistakes, and that's okay, right? So we're going to make mistakes. We're going to mess up. And so that's inevitable. But what happens when most people mess up or make a mistake? They say to themselves, oh, I'm a terrible parent. I'm a terrible mom. I'm a terrible dad. What's wrong with me? Right? We talk to ourselves in these really unkind ways. And the practice of self-compassion is just like when you inevitably are human and make a mistake, you offer yourself some kindness. And so self-compassion involves three things. It involves mindfulness, to be aware of the kind of thoughts, the kind of things you're saying to yourself in your head, right? Like, are you aware of what the voice in your head sounds like? It also involves understanding that you're not alone, that everybody makes mistakes. Hunter makes mistakes. Jay makes mistakes. Everybody is making mistakes. And then 3, self-kindness. Can you speak to yourself in a kind way? Can you say, oh my gosh, that was a hard moment. Oh, wasn't my best moment, but parenting stuff is hard, right? Like, okay, and it's self-compassion. It can feel awkward if that's not the way you're used to talking to yourself, but it can be something that's learned and practiced. And it's actually quite practical too, because like if you're really harsh to yourself, then you make a mistake and you just spiral down and, you're miserable. And what use are you to anybody? Like, you can't be present for your family if that's what your goal is. Like, if you are kind to yourself and you give yourself a soft landing, you can kind of say, okay, I can get back up. I can begin anew. I can start again, because we have to do that so many times. We have to just begin again a zillion times.
Yeah. That guilt, shame, and remorse gets us nowhere. I like, when you said, realize it, own it, and give yourself a break. I think that's so important. So very important. What role does communication play in mindful parenting? And how can parents improve their communication with their children?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can start to realize, then we go back to that modeling. What are we saying? I remember really, as I was starting to really dive into this, starting to really dive into better communication and being less reactive. And then I saw my daughter, who was like 3.5 or 4, talk to her sister and like bark these orders. And I was just like, oh gosh, cringe. Like, this is what I sound like. This is not good. But it's never too late to change our practices of communication. And so, so in Raising Good Humans and in Mindful Parenting, I teach really like wonderful, classic, basic communication skills, which include things like reflective listening and I messages, right? So what do we do when somebody else has a problem, right? With for a lot of parents, when your kid has a problem, you immediately, you might dismiss it. Oh, you're fine. That's okay. Or you might immediately just start to solve their problem for them and just offer them a solution, which actually isn't that helpful, right?
Right.
If you, I don't know, that we think it's helpful. We want to just, help our kids make their problems go away. But oftentimes, the vast majority of times if you are upset and you go to somebody, you want someone to acknowledge what you're saying, right? Yep. You want someone to see and hear you. And that's what our kids want, right? Our kids want to be really seen and heard. So reflectively listening is reflecting back the feelings and the content of what kids are saying, offering some empathy. Oh man, that's really hard right now. You hate it. You hate it when your brother knocks over your stuff. That's really frustrating, right? Like, yeah, and just that feeling of being heard and seen is an incredibly powerful step, and that can make kids feel really connected to you, and it helps them to then ultimately solve their own problems. And then iMessages are such a great skill because orders and commands and threats, they're actually that's kind of the go-to for for parents wanting to get stuff done, but they're not actually that effective because it turns out that no one at any age likes to be ordered around. No one at any age likes to be threatened. It makes kids resent parents. It makes them ultimately, push back. That resentment builds over years. So how can we communicate our needs without doing that? In Raising Good Humans and Mindful Parenting, you talk about this classic iMessages that Thomas Gordon talked about in 1970, how do we communicate our needs, explain how your behavior is affecting me, explain how it makes me feel, all of those things.
Cool. Very, very cool. Okay, this is a good one. How can parents manage their own stress and emotional triggers to be more present and calm with their kids?
Yeah, so managing your own stress involves all the things we know it involves, right? Like regular sleep and exercise and time with family and friends and time in nature. And that's, I know, a big ask for a lot of people, but we have to remember that should be a priority in your life if you want to be present for your kids and not be stressed and reactive, right? You have to take care of yourself. But then we also have, we have stressors in life, but we also have triggers, right? That we have things from our own childhood that can arise. You may feel like when your kid doesn't listen to you, it may put you right back in that feeling of when I was a kid and no one listened to me, and you feel just like a little crazy from that. And that's not necessarily your child's fault that this produces a big outsized reaction in you. And so actually in Raising Good Humans, I have a bunch of questions to help us kind of understand, take a little look into our own upbringing and understand, how were you raised? How did things affect you? What are some things, so that we can kind of carry our own baggage rather than dump it on our kids, right? That self-awareness is really, really important. They've shown that through research that Dr. Dan Siegel has done, that they've shown that without some awareness of your past and your upbringing and all of those things, you're likely to just repeat unhealthy patterns.
Yeah.
So let's not do that. Let's just start to do some of that work to become more aware. It can be challenging, but it's so fruitful.
Yeah. It can be challenging. I know I come from a family of 4 and I'm the youngest. And to get them to notice me, I really had to, jump over these humongous hoops. And I saw that as I was growing as well. And I needed to say, oh, okay, you don't need to be the center of attention. They hear you, people hear you. And it took work. It took work, therapy, meditation, all the things that you're talking about. Okay. What advice do you have for parents who are just starting this journey? How would they go about it?
Well, I would say to don't panic. Like the healing and yourself, which is kind of what we've been talking about, right? And transforming maybe the way you speak and helping yourself become less reactive and all that. It takes some time. And you want it all done yesterday because now you have a 3-year-old or whatever it is. Um, but that's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. It's always fruitful to practice more skillful means. It always helps. And it's never, never too late to do that. I just want to say that right off the bat, that it's never, never too late. Even if you have adult children, it really can help to change the way you communicate and be less reactive. But I guess I would start to look at, you know, what do you need most? Do you need more support in your life? Do you need those basics? Do you need time by yourself, time with supportive family and friends? Do you need better sleep, right? How are your interactions with your kids? Are they what you want them to be?
Yeah,
Um,
I would even go as far as saying, like, if I'm starting out and I don't know how to do this, maybe to read one of your books or to listen to your podcasts, just to get an idea. Okay, is this the kind of thing that I need to get started on my own journey to have a better relationship with my children? So
yeah.
I think those are some good choices to make as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Thanks. I mean, yeah, hopefully it's raising good humans. Like I didn't expect it to do as well as it has done in the world. It's in like 17 languages now, which is crazy. And I just think that it helps people to see it from a different perspective, and to rather than think about, oh, this child, I need to make this child change so that I can feel better. We can start to make some of those changes from the inside out, and then it ripples out to your child. But yeah, absolutely. Like the Mindful Parenting podcast, we have over 400 episodes, so it's an incredible
Absolutely.
archive for parenting knowledge.
Perfect. Perfect. I think that's a good place to get started. How do you suggest parents balance the demands of modern life with the need to be mindful and present with their children? I guess that can be tough. I got my life, my stuff's going on, and then I also have to watch after these kids and help them become better human beings. That's got to be some kind of balance.
Sure. I mean, I think I would say that for a lot of parents, as we have kids, we have to remember that our needs matter. Our needs are actually just as important as our kids' needs, ultimately. When you have an infant, their needs are a lot more immediate, of course. And that's important that those needs are met. But you can't neglect your own needs forever. I think that's really, really important to understand. That is a recipe for burnout and resentment and bad parenting, honestly.
Yeah.
So don't do that. Like, yeah. Balance. Remember that you are human too, beyond mom or dad. It's beyond this role. And I think that's important to connect. There was Annie Burnside wrote a book a long time ago called Soul to Soul Parenting, and she said beyond not role to role, soul to soul. And I thought that's so beautiful. Like let's remember that we are allowed to be authentic, well-rounded humans, and that will only benefit our kids because we're modeling, right? So just give yourself permission to be a full and complete human, and get all the help and resources you can when they're young, because it's so demanding at that time.
Okay. All righty. What's one piece of advice or key takeaway from your book that you hope every parent will remember? What's the most? You have anything that sticks out most of all?
I mean, I think that for a lot of people, what sticks out most of all is remembering that this idea that you're taking care of yourself is not selfish. I think that we want to put our all into our kids, and that's a beautiful, impulse. And yet we cannot give what we do not have. And so we really, the foundation of skillful, mindful parenting is to take care of yourself and to be a complete and whole human being, and to honor that. And I think that piece, taking care of yourself and self-compassion, are the two, ultimately the most foundational pieces, because we have to take care of ourselves and we have to give ourselves permission to be human. This is super hard. It triggers you in all these crazy ways that you don't realize they're going to happen before you have kids. And so you have permission to be human. You can always, 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 always begin anew.
Excellent, excellent. Hunter, I got to say, I really think this is such an important subject matter. And I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for you to come here and share it with us. And I just want to say thank you to the world that comes in and listens. And I have a few parting words. This will bring us to the close of today's podcast. It was such a pleasure having you, Hunter. So please visit us every Tuesday for a new and what we feel is a helpful way to live a better life. Thank you. God bless you. And we will see you next Tuesday. And thank you. We will let you know when we're going to edit it, look at it. I don't think it needed very much work. You were fantastic. And then we'll send you a little email when it's being out there, and you can look at it, send your friends to it, because I think you really did a great job. Great job.
Well, thank you so much, Jay. Yeah, it was nice to meet you. And yeah, we'll share it around for sure.
Excellent. All right. God bless.
You too. Bye.
Bye.